Welcome to Breaking the Chain. Today we've got for a big Nationals week with a lot of Nationals, not a lot of news. Um, I know we
Yeah.
have the title of Flesh and Blood was changed. There's some spoilers. There's all the national results, and I know we were looking to try our hand at some casting later on.
Yeah. So we have a little bit of a slow week. So this will be a short episode, even with this little add-on we're adding at the end. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to try and cast a recent game, a high-level game. And I noticed that the Icelandic National Championships were not casted over. They were recorded and they're on YouTube. And I'll make sure to include the link to this game in the notes. But I'll also I'll have it on screen for the YouTube watchers, and I'll upload the video version of the podcast to Spotify so that you guys can watch along as well. But we'll try to just describe the game as much as possible too, so that you can just listen with audio. But I thought it'd be kind of a fun little thing to try since we don't have a ton to cover this weekend.
Yeah, it's exciting. I've always wanted to try my hand in a little bit of casting, see how it goes.
Yeah. But yeah. So how was your week in Flesh and Blood, Jacob?
So it's been a really busy week at work. My schedule has been changing and I've worked a couple of long shifts. And then outside of work, I've had a lot of stuff to do and people to see. So I've only played 2 games of Flesh and Blood this week, and they were both against Cody.
So you know what my week in Flesh and Blood already is then too.
Yeah. I know that I really want to, and I was saying this a little before the podcast, but I know I really want to, record some gameplay of, me playing the Volta deck and putting it online, and maybe, I don't know exactly how I want to go about it, talking over my plays or just, putting, natural feed over. But it's definitely something that I, saw some comments, or at least one comment on when I upload the deck tech was like, oh, hey, you gonna make some gameplay? I'm like, oh, I'd love to, and I really want to. It's just been really busy this last week.
Yeah, no, I get that. For me personally, I also had a very slim week that included our 2 games with you, and then I played I think a couple random games online with Dio. By the way, our games were I was playing Dash.io versus your Valda, and I got absolutely destroyed by Valda both games.
I wouldn't say that. They were both close, and
They were close.
Even the second one, it was really funny because you're like, "Oh, this is over," and I was like, "Yep, this is over," and I'm like, "You've got me." I was about to concede to you, and then you conceded. I'm like, "Wait, what?" I'm so because you were eating my hand every turn.
Well, so
And
that was the game that I got fatigued, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was a weird situation because I was down to 1 life, and I'm like, he just needs to hit me with 1 pistol. But it was a situation if I didn't realize you didn't have the ability to throw 5 shots in 1 turn.
Right.
And I still had 32 cards in deck or something, 31, 32.
Yeah. The problem was that the Dash.io endgame with Cog in the Machine requires all 3 Cog in the Machines, and I think there was a turn, if I remember correctly, that I had to Foundry Heart for a resource, and of course hit the Cog in the Machine. And the moment that happened, I was like, oh, this might be over. It was very early in the game, but I was like, losing one of those makes my end game a lot worse.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's what caused the end of it. Because with you being at 1, if I just do the Cog in the Machine loop, then I just it's deterministic end game. It's like in Magic where they're like, I do the loop 100 times. Do you just want to concede instead of making me do it? And so that's basically where we would have been. Like, even though you have 30 cards in deck, I can just go ahead and be like, hey, I'm gonna do this literally every turn. Do you just want to do you want to speed this up?
Yeah, and it was a situation of I didn't realize that you needed all 3. Because I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh, well, you get 2 action points. That's 2 gunshots. And then you get 2 more action points. But I forget you have to use 1 to create 2.
Yep.
So
I need to shoot you 4 times for 2 every turn. And yeah, you need all 3 Cog in the Machines to do that.
I mean, it was that close where I'm like, oh, you got the game. You're right. And then the game ended. I'm like, wait a second. What do you...
Yeah.
I was really confused.
Funnily enough, I think I lost both games to over-respecting Pummel. Is what really ended up happening.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
There was a time where you threw, it might have been Spinal Crush or the Arsenal bottom card. I can't remember what it was. You threw a card and you had
Oh, I
a
think
card
it was
that was an Arsenal for maybe a turn or two, and you had two floating.
Mm.
And I was just like, I guess I have to play around Pummel here. And I blocked 9 on it. I think it was Spinal Crush because I blocked 9 on 9.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
And then you didn't pummel me, but then I couldn't tell for sure whether or not that was just you saying, "Hey, this pummel isn't good here," or if you just didn't have it. So then the next turn, I also played around it, and then just ended. It was just wasn't even pummel in the first place. So, um, it was funny. I think I basically just kind of got in my own head. But I think the matchup's very close. You having like on demand dominate, and just of course the Guardian suite of armor and stuff makes it kind of tough. And I do draw cards, so then I give you some seismic surges.
Yeah, it's like a really interesting matchup, and especially with Cog in the Machine, because like I know we tested a while back when I was like first making the arm or like the deck to upload. I was like, oh, let me test against Dash.io. And I tried straight fatigue, and you had the 3 Cog in the Machine plan, and it just like didn't work.
Nope.
So it was like
it will not work.
yeah, I was like, oh man, I have to like play aggressive and force you to block with that to then turn around to fatigue, or I just have to be aggressive enough to like kill you first. It's like
Yeah.
it is kind of an interesting matchup, and it like feels really skill impressed, like skill dependent, which is really cool. But it's like I am excited that Guardian isn't just a I like win against Dash.io match at least anymore.
Yeah.
Jarl still might be pretty bad, but it's like better.
Yeah, it makes it really interesting because before the Guardians would just full fatigue into me, and it was on me to play like Plasma Purifier or to just set up these huge combo turns and hope I don't get disrupted before like when I'm setting up or after I set up when I have the full hand and all the items, and just be like, please don't Warmongers me, please don't erase face me like against some of the other decks.
Don't give me the frostbite. Like...
Yeah, don't give me frostbites, please. Yeah, stuff like that. And now it's kind of gotten to this weird thing of I can just attack into you and basically boost away as long as it's not cogging the machine. I can just boost away and force your hand every turn and then have that end game. So really interesting matchup. It does, like put the onus on you to kill me instead of just blocking me out for the entire game. But besides that, I did pick up some cool stuff. I'll show the camera here. 3 cold foil boom grenades from the new Gem Pack 2. None of these I pulled actually because I haven't played any Armory since Gem Pack 2 came out, but someone posted in our local Discord and was like, hey, I have one of these boom grenades, and I was like, I gotta get one of those. So I go to, there's an Armory on Monday that's like I could almost walk there if I wanted to actually. But it's one of the days that my wife has off work, and so I don't go to it. But I went to pick up the card, and the guy that he was playing, I went during the first round. The guy that he was playing was like, "Hey, I have 2 of those. Do you want them?" And I was like, "I just get to pick up a whole playset of these in one go. That's sick." So of course I did.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I love the look of these. They look awesome. What was I gonna say? That's all my Flesh and Blood. I've kind of been taking a break during my off season. If I was going to Singapore, this would not be an off season for me. I'd be practicing a lot, but I decided that it's not quite in the budget nor the time, whether it's time budget or monetary budget, to travel to Singapore. Even though I think double qualified. No, I'm not double qualified anymore. I'm only single qualified because I lost Elo. But I am qualified for it, but it just doesn't make sense for me to go. So it's kind of an off season for me. I've been trying out a couple different things. In the meantime, some different hobbies while I'm waiting around for. I think the next thing I'm gonna do is calling Kansas City. I think that's the next one. Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah. It's a little weird because like it was my on season because I'm like, oh, let's get into like I was playing
All
more
that,
and I
yeah.
was doing a little bit of content creation, like all that fun stuff. And then work's like getting crazy the next 2 weeks. So it's like all on hold. I'm like hoping to do a little more again, but it might be stressful 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, for work.
Yeah. We have like corporate coming from Georgia, so we have to prepare for that.
Yeah.
So
Well, good
that's
luck
gonna
with
be
that.
a blast.
But yeah, you want to dig into the spoilers?
Yeah, we can definitely dig into some spoilers. It's not a ton, but it's like I didn't expect them at all.
Me either. Yeah.
So the first spoiler, sorry, there we go, is Iris of the Blossom, which is a ninja equipment headpiece 2 block blade break, and it has instant tap, discard a card, search your deck for Whirling Mist Blossom, banish it, then shuffle. You may own or you may play it this turn. Activate this only if you've hit this turn.
So, remind me, Whirling Mist Blossom is the Ira specialization, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's interesting that it's an Ira specialization, but this helmet technically isn't an Ira specialization.
It reminds me of like the Bolton or the Spirit of your Arena, which is the Bolton necklace, which searches for Lumina Ascension, which is a Bolton specialization, but the necklace isn't a Bolton specialization.
I didn't realize that. That's interesting. So you can
I
technically
think,
run this 2 blade break helmet if you want to in Katsu.
yeah, but you have Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, which actually has text in Katsu. I
Yep,
think the
and
thing
blocks
is
you.
they wanted to, yeah, I think they just wanted to save space on like the wording
Yeah, I mean it's just
because,
not necessary, right? Like you can just
yeah,
yeah.
because you can only really play in Naira anyways.
I mean, I guess there's technically a world where, well, no, I don't think the rules allow you to rename a card in your deck, right? Like I don't think that's a thing. But I know
Oh
that ninjas
yeah,
do a lot of renaming
yeah.
of cards, but I don't think you can rename cards in the deck, at least not yet. So,
That'd be kind of interesting.
mhm. But anyway, for
You,
Ira, this card's in a very contested spot for Ira. Typically, she runs Mass Momentum because you run a lot of blues and you run Kodachis. But as we know, the new Armory deck is going to be based around the Edge of Autumn, which is the two-handed weapon. So it's possible that if Ira ends up running Edge of Autumn instead of Kodachis, that Mass Momentum doesn't quite make as much sense anymore, and neither would Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. So there's a good chance that this helmet is actually running Ira, depending on how she's built.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because like Ira also just runs so many like useless blues that like don't have go again in the first place. That like Mask of Momentum like really wasn't like huge unless you're playing like hyper aggressive, and then like Mask of the Pouncing Lynx was also just like an interesting tech if you're like in Salt the Wound kind of territory, which is also a weird aggressive list. So if you're more mid range, Ira really didn't have like a helmet that she really enjoyed running. So like I think this is actually something that like we'll see play. Like in like a more mid-range Ira, this could definitely be something I could see like, oh, okay. Like the one turn I need to pop off is here. They let me hit. I need to do this. And it's really interesting because it could be something like I need the CNC to hit. I know they have like Lumina Ascension because Bolton's on my mind because we talked about him. Like Lumina Ascension in the arsenal. I need to take this arsenal. But a good way to take the arsenal is like I'll do like I have CNC. Well, I'll Kodachi or like even with if we're doing the Edge of Autumn, like Edge of Autumn, and like no one's gonna block of Edge of Autumn, like very rarely. Like you stab them with the Edge of Autumn, then you can throw the Whirling Mist Blossom, forcing them to block with a card, and then you throw CNC, forcing them to block with 2 more cards. If you're running this hit like this arm equipment, if you really need to, you can force them to block with their entire hand with this mask.
Yeah, we'll
Just
get to the arm
because,
piece in a second, but that's what makes this, I think,
yeah,
really shine. But yeah, as a reminder for Whirling Mist Blossom, the Ira specialization,
I guess.
if Whirling Mist Blossom hits and it's the second or higher chain link in a row to hit, draw 2 cards, go again, and it comes in. It's a 1-cost yellow, 2 power,
Oh yeah.
2 block. Um, so this Iris, yeah, like what you're saying, if you swing with Edge of Autumn, which I believe is 2 go again, um,
Mm-hmm. So
so
two-handed
remind myself
Kodachi
really quick.
without any like pitch restrictions. So it's pay 1, 2, go again.
It's only cost 1.
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually sorry. It's 1 go again. It's not 2.
Oh, it's what? Oh, you're right. 1 go again.
It's once per turn action, pay 1, attack, go again, 1 power. So it's Kodachi, but without the requirement of a 0 cost card in your pitch zone for it to get go again. It just has go again, and it's two-handed. So kind of strictly worse, Kodachi, if you ask me, but there's going to be a lot of synergy with it, including the arm piece that we could maybe just go over now before, so that we can describe all of the implications of the headpiece. So I'll read out that one. It's Okana Scar Wraps, Ninja Equipment Arms, Blade Break 2-block. So another 2-block equipment piece, which Ninja is actually pretty weak on in terms of blocking power and equipment. But anyway, attack reaction tap, banish an Edge of Autumn you control. Target ninja attack action card gets +1 power. Whenever an attack you control with Vengeance in its name hits, you may equip an Edge of Autumn from your banished zone. Vengeance in its name. What are those cards?
I think we only have one at the moment. It was spoiled quite a bit ago. But it is
right.
And I said CNC, but it only applies to ninja effects. But we have a new Vengeance card that's pretty much CNC that was spoiled. Oh, how so long ago?
Well, I forgot about the spoiler, yeah. Enact Vengeance, a 2-cost red, 6-power, 3-block majestic, so it only comes in this color. Combo. If Edge of Autumn or a card with Vengeance in its name was the last attack this combat chain, this gets when this hits a hero, destroy all cards in their arsenal. And it's just when you attack with a Vengeance card, right? It's not when you hit. Oh, sorry, no. It's whenever an attack you control with Vengeance in its name hits, you may equip an Edge of Autumn from your banished zone. Wow, wait. This is insane, isn't it? So you get to, with 1 blue, you get to swing Edge of Autumn. It hits. You could tap your helmet.
Well, I'm realizing that the Vengeance cards need Edge of Autumn or Vengeance before it. So maybe that doesn't quite work that way. But it is something where, like, the helmet is, like, if you really want something to hit at, like, outside of the Vengeance cards, you can still, like, force it to, like, them to block on the attack before. But you could, like, oh, I have Vengeance in my arsenal. I'm not going to play it this turn. But I have my arms up. I'm going to force my opponent to block 4 on the Whirling Mist Blossom because Edge of Autumn's coming in for 1. Then you get the Ira buff, so it's coming in for 3 on Whirling Mist Blossom. Maybe 4 if you don't block 4.
Yep.
And then you throw CNC, which if they don't have a defense reaction, it requires them to block like 2 cards into CNC. And so it's like,
yeah,
I think it's cool because it allows a lot of pressure.
Yeah, you're forcing a lot of cards because if you go the Whirling Mist Blossom route with the helmet, your Mist Blossom is coming in for 3, but it's threatening 4 with the arms, right? And you will lose your Edge of Autumn because it's not a card with Vengeance in its name, but it's a constant threat of 4 draw 2, which is pretty sick. But the bigger face up line is that you go Edge of Autumn into, what is it called again? Enact Vengeance, which will come in for 7. It's a CNC for 7, but it's also threatening to come in for 8 for free, because if it hits, if your opponent blocks 3, D-reacts for 4, you activate your arms, you effectively flick your Edge of Autumn to give it +1. So now it hits for 1, destroys their arsenal if they have one, and re-equips your Edge of Autumn, so it's free +1 if it hits. And yeah, I don't know. That's actually that's very strong.
I think it's super cool because it like adds like that aspect of like, I'm gonna be trying to punish you here. How do you stop this? And it's like cool because like it allows you to run like defense reactions and try and like with the Ira trying to like psych you out in a way. Like, haha, like, are you gonna fully block this Enact Vengeance? I'm making it 8. It allows you on like the defensive side to be like, I block 7, force them to pop their Edge of Autumn, and then you can block with a defense reaction on top and make them lose their weapon.
Yeah, and I think we've all played against Kasu before with breaking skills. His arm piece that says a target attack action with combo in its name gets +1. and there gets to be a point where you just can't respect it. Like you can't keep
Right.
over blocking everything by one, right? Um, and so eventually you just have to give it to him, and that's just what's going to end up happening with against Iris. You're just going to have to give it to him. Like this is going to be a free +1 damage a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Sometimes with on hits, as we're seeing here.
And it's like cool when it when it's like I just can't block this and it adds up multiple times per game, because then all of a sudden it's like this is like I can't even imagine like how long this like or how much value this gets, especially going like later in the game, because Ira's like a long ninja. She's not a very aggressive like I'm gonna beat you down in a few turns. She like plays like 10, 15 turns. And if she gets this off every like third turn, if it's gonna add up, because it's like, oh, or, like I got you here, I got you there, and it's like not only did it block 2 when she was about to die, but like it dealt 5 damage over the game, and that's a strong piece of equipment at that point.
I mean, imagine you're playing as aggro, or some deck that just doesn't really block well, and you just have this 2-card 9 just sitting there in the deck three times in a row. You pitch a blue, you swing at the edge of autumn, you throw an Act Vengeance, you get to flick it with your arms to make it 8. That's 9 damage with 1 blue and an Act Vengeance. And your opponent is not going to do anything about it. Yeah, and the arsenal on hit as well. Like your opponent looks at their hand. That's just 3 blocks. What do you do? Do you block 3 cards on this?
Yeah, it is cool. I really like the equipment so far.
Yeah,
and I do think they're getting better at like presenting equipment in these armory decks. Like it is very cool to see a lot of these armory decks and be like, I could actually run that. Like that looks super interesting. I could see how this like is built like this, and the reason this is in there. Where it's like, I don't know, I felt like maybe they've been good with a lot of the equipment. Maybe like Azalea's been the one where you're like, well,
yeah, there's definitely, I feel like a lot of times the armory decks have had equipment that's meant to upgrade the current deck that that hero is built on, and then only one at most one of those pieces get used, right? Like for example, in Dash.io, I think people were using the boots and the chest intermittently, but they were just like side grades effectively to what was already being run. And I think nowadays Dash.io doesn't even run any of them. They're just are just dated all card equipment now.
Well, it's like cool because it is like a side grade in a way where it's like if you're a new player buying into this deck, it doesn't feel bad. Like, oh, I have to buy the tunic to play this. I have to buy these arm pieces to play this. I have to buy all this legendary equipment. It's like, oh, okay, like all this equipment really works with what I really want to do. It's just like if I want that extra 1% or I want that extra like just a little bit more, I want to play a different way, then you invest into it. But
yeah, no, I guess what I was trying to get at too is that this looks like it's, instead of it upgrading the current Ira list, it's adding a whole new strategy to Ira. It's adding a whole new archetype that you could play. So instead of it just when you sit across from Ira, it's always going to be either full control or like an aggro dual threat tempo style deck. It's going to be instead potentially also this Edge of Autumn deck, and you just don't know what it's going to be. It's just a whole different way you can build Ira, and I think having options is great.
Yeah, I love the game when you sit down in front of a hero and you're like, which one am I playing? Like,
yeah, and you have to like hedge.
Either of these, and it's like cool when a hero has like so many different archetypes, because like I think it's one thing to like sit down and really enjoy a hero. It's a second thing to like be able to play the hero the way you want it in the way you enjoy that hero.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just also just makes it interesting for the game, like to have different options.
Yeah.
Let's see here. And we don't have any more spoilers, right? Those were both spoiled on the what's it called? What's Majin's show called again? The Weekly Minute? World Tour Weekly. Yeah. It was on World Tour Weekly that those cards were spoiled. Yeah, I'm just really curious to see what other Vengeance cards come out. Like, it'll be interesting if the only ones are the Majestic, the Enact Vengeance. So you only have 3 ways to re-equip your Edge of Autumn. I kind of doubt that. I feel like there's going to be at least one other card with Vengeance in its name, but
I've
we'll have to see.
seen someone talk about like one that's like a 0 for 3. If Edge Bottom was the last one, or like last attack this
Oh, it's like
turn,
a
it's a
leak or
0 for
something.
4, go again, or like it gains go again. Because
It
like
wasn't officially
enact vengeance,
spoiled.
even I no. It's just someone like theorizing, nothing
I see
spoiled or
it. I
like.
see.
But it's like enact vengeance, like talks about like if a card with vengeance in its name was the last attack this combat chain, which like may like it like puts out the point that like there's probably one with go again.
Yeah.
If it's like Edge of Autumn comes first or this, that, or another thing, there's probably one with go again.
I think actually something else to keep in mind is, or something else I just noticed. Ira doesn't really play combo, but now she's going to, if she's running the Edge of Autumn build. Now she's going to have a combo deck, which I don't think it changes a ton. There's not a lot of just generic combo stuff, but if she ends up running a ton of combo cards, she can run things like, was it Harmony, Ancestral Harmony?
That's fair. I know that
What's
she
that blue
actually
token on it?
runs a
Yep.
bit of blue combo cards, so she can run Flick Flack and on the defensive side gain
That's
the
true.
value.
That's
But she
true.
doesn't run any like aggressive combo is the thing.
Yeah, the combo
Lots
was
of
never
her
used to play. It was only for Flick Flag.
yeah. So it's like interesting to get a little more aggressive combo because it like also allows her to play better defensively, which is like an interesting like because she has more aggressive combos, she's even better as a defensive deck.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, I'm curious to see if they end up giving her a lot more combo. Um,
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be
but
interesting and cool to see.
oh yeah, I'm interested. I think Ira's cool. I like to see her get support. Um, but yeah, so this past weekend we had a good handful of national championships happen.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually, let me see here. We had Canada, Germany, Iceland, Switzerland. I'm not gonna read them all actually. There's a ton of them. Those are the biggest one being Canada, and that was taken down by Jordan Jalbert Ross on Syndra, with the top 8 including 2 Syndras, 3 Gravy Bones, 2 Verdance, and 1 Kasai, piloted by Aaron Chance. So Syndra, as we can see actually in the week 1 national championships winners pie chart here, Syndra was one of the top performing decks. There weren't a ton of what looks like there was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There were 11 national championships, and Syndra won
Mm-hmm.
4 of them. So about a little over a third of the national championships were won by Syndra.
Yeah, it's interesting to see her become so dominant because like I do think that there are ways to like counter her. But I think it is like oddly enough like the Gravy Bones effect where like Gravy Bones becoming so popular allows her to kind of come in and like take out the field. And I also think like she's good in a lot of those more defensive decks. Like you go into like Earth Heroes. I also think she's good in the Earth Heroes. So it's like I think just looking at the last couple weeks where it's like you had US Nationals with Verdance winning, you had Florian who was dominant for so long, you had Gravy Bones. Like a lot of these heroes, like you talk about them, the common weakness is just like straight up aggression, and no one does it better at the moment than Syndra.
Yeah.
So not that I think there's not counterplay. Like there's Jarl who's really strong in the Syndra. But like I could definitely see this evolving into like a more like triangulus meta where it's like, okay, you have Jarl who's good into Syndra, and you have Syndra who's good into Gravy Bones, and you have Gravy Bones who's good into Jarl, and it's like the
Yeah, a little
like
bit of a triangle,
classic,
yeah.
yeah, the classic triangle.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the top decks, notably Gravy Bones and Verdance, and then you see Syndra, and you're like, yeah, it makes sense. Like Syndra kind of
Yeah.
crushes these decks, right? Um, and sure, there are decks that will counter Syndra, right? Like I would think Azalea and maybe some of the other assassins like Slippy and Mario.
Mhm.
Um, those would do really well into Syndra, but not quite as well into the other heroes, right? So yeah, you end up having this triangle, this rock paper scissors meta, where Syndra is the dominant aggro deck, but it's only dominant aggro deck because of the dominant Gravy Bones and Verdance decks. It is generically strong as well, but I think the main reason it's performing so well is because of the way that the top of the meta is shaped.
Yeah, and I think that she has such a high dominance because like in a weird way, control is probably like the weakest edge of Flesh and Blood at the moment. Like outside of like Assassin, I don't think there's really any other class that's like good at control. But like you see it with like the next three heroes on that pie chart are two Assassins and Azalea, which are the control decks. So it's like you have three separate control decks that are kind of like taking it down. And Azalea can be argued as an aggressive deck, but she has like control-esque like
she has Red in the Ledger, is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's interesting because it feels like because control is like at a lesser degree at the moment, you have a stronger aggressive response to Gravy Bones, even though I think he's considered the best deck.
Yeah. So interesting to see. I don't think it's completely surprising, but I wasn't expecting Syndra to outperform all these decks. I thought Verdance was going to get a lot more wins, personally. I think that she is very well positioned. But anywho, that was the first week, the second week of Nationals. We have another week of Nationals happening this upcoming weekend. And then I think that's it, right? I don't think there's any more Nationals after this weekend.
I have no idea, honestly. I'm not gonna lie to you. There might be some more after this, but let's see.
I don't think so. I think this upcoming week is the last one. And then after that, it's Singapore. So unless you have anything else to say, before we get into the commentary of the Icelandic Nationals Finals, which by the way is Fang versus Azalea, and it's a quick game. I'll give that little spoiler. It's pretty quick, so it won't be that long of a commentary. But I want to leave off with a question for those who might not want to stick around for that. What are you excited to see in Singapore? Whether it's the decks played, the strategies enabled, maybe how the meta adapts. Oh, also we're getting a ban list. What is it? I think it's after this weekend. I think maybe it's on Monday. We're gonna get an announcement of a ban list. So a follow-up question, actually, what do you expect on the ban list? Do you expect anything? Do you expect no changes?
As like a short note aside, like I don't like I wouldn't be surprised if there's like no bans because I think at the moment everyone seems really happy with the kind of level that everything's at. So it's like I wouldn't be surprised if they say no bans. And this is like kind of what we were talking about when they were making it more frequent. It's like it is okay to make it more frequent and just say no bans like more often.
Exactly.
It just allows you when the mistake happens to come in sooner instead of trying to make it an emergency.
Yep. Yeah, no, having more bans is just gonna be better because it just gives them more opportunity to respond.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we can go into the Icelandic Nationals. I'm gonna pull up on the screen here, and you can already see it's pretty quick because you can see the YouTube. What timeline? Whatever you call this slider bar here. And I'm gonna count down for Jacob to start on his side at the same time because I can't really share my screen and record it all that easily. Plus, it would just come over as even tougher quality to see all the cards. So
yeah.
I'm gonna do a quick countdown, Jacob. 3, 2, 1, play.
Say hi.
Turn that down.
So I guess, yeah, I was gonna say my first question about like this matchup here is what is the game strategy into like Azalea as Fang?
I would say you need to get on fast, very fast, because if you don't, they're gonna find their red ledgers and start really siloing your action points, right? Because you can get around red ledger as Fang, right? You can make a tall dagger, right? But you are very much wanting to get your value out of swinging both daggers and getting some of those buffs on your weapons by being the second draconic chain link, right? Also, a lot of times the Fang lists these days are running a lot of attack actions, a lot of the 0-for-4s. So Red Ledger also denies those.
Right. So it's like I imagine this has got to be a really tough matchup for the Fang, and like trying to ignore the results. Looks like they're having fun and getting ready, but it seems like it is an interesting matchup because I do like the idea of like being able to react over the top, but I just don't think Azalea is going to care a lot.
Yeah, I agree. It's just damage, right? It looks like the Azalea is going first here. At when it comes to the top 8, it is the higher seed that gets to choose who goes first. I don't know who the higher seed is here. So I'm not actually sure if Azalea wants to go first against Fang or not. I would think they do because letting Fang go first allows for some guaranteed fealty generation, and you just don't want to give them for the free fealty generation, right? You want to tax them as well. Oh, whoa. We are seeing a turn 0 bullseye breaker. Or sorry, bracers.
And then they put the arrow on the bottom and flip out remorseless.
They play premeditate into. Wow. This is a really cool play. So they played, I forget the name of the card, but it's the pump 3 that you get to opt 1. They looked at the top of their deck. They clearly saw Remorseless was on the top of the deck. And for their turn 0, they decided to break Bullseye Racers in order to throw this Remorseless for 11 Dominate with on-hit Ponder, on-hit Remorseless effect. Very strong turn 0 from the Azalea player.
That is a very strong turn 0, and especially like we were talking about, like the Fang just wants to get online as fast as he can. With the Azalea going so dominant so early, it's just not allowing him to get that room to create this fealty to really like come out at it.
Yeah, and actually, this is something I want to bring up really quick. Is that we've been seeing Azalea switch to a New Horizon build lately, but this Azalea is actually on Skullbone Crosswrap. So going back to its roots,
more classic build.
Yeah, and the Fang does look pretty standard. There's Crown of Providence, Brave Force Bracers, Grains of Bloodspill, and Valiant Dynamos. And so the Fang player blocks for looks like 4 Hunt's End and their Dynamos on this Remorseless. So they're going to take 7, go down to 33, and the Remorseless effect is on.
I also wonder how relevant like Remorseless effect is, because it's like whenever you play an action card, correct? So
Correct.
Fang can just like completely subvert this by just playing into the weapon and reacting over the top with it.
That is right. Yeah, the Remorseless effect could just be for nothing. There's a chance that there's no damage taken from Remorseless here, and we see that with the start of Obsidian, a swing with Obsidian. Currently for 1.
Right, it's never for 1 though, especially when Fang's holding a 3-card hand at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's gonna react, he's gonna give it go again.
All right, we see. Oh, I forget the name of that card, but it is it's pumping the dagger to 4.
Yep, it's the Draconic attack reaction that cost 1 less for each Draconic chain link you control.
Yep. So now the dagger is coming in for 4 go again, and Azalea did decline to block there. Went down to 6, or went down to 34 for some reason. Am I missing something?
Oh, could.
Okay, there they go. Okay, they're fixing live totals.
Yeah, I'm like trying to think about it too. But it looks like he also activated Grains of Bloodspill to
I see.
Create an extra resource.
Yeah, so did originally pitch a yellow for the Obsidian, use that second resource for Grains, and now they're swinging the second Obsidian just for 1. They pitched a red for it. A red 0 for... That is interesting. So they pitched a red 0 for 4 to throw the second Obsidian, didn't react on it, so they could avoid the 1 damage.
I wonder if it would have been correct there to throw the 0 for 4 to throw a little extra damage, because I think he had 2 in hand, and that's why he pitched 1 to Arsenal the other, but you could just play it. unless he's worried about like deck fatigue for some reason.
I don't think you can ever be worried about fatigue in this matchup. So yeah, I'm surprised that he gave up.
Right.
He gave up 3 damage to take 1 less damage, but maybe he's thinking he just needs to save his health, wait out the Azalea as long as possible to get the 3 fealty.
Here's a huge buff turn.
All right, so we see the Azalea player play premeditate, release the tension, and take aim and throw a bolt and shot. I believe that's yellow.
What is it?
The quality is a little bit rough here, unfortunately. 9.
You're adding 9 4, so it's a red.
Yeah,
so it's coming in for 13.
Yeah, 13. Oh, you know what? The other reason I don't understand. The other reason that the Fang player decided to swing with the Obsidian is so that they would refresh their Valiant Dynamos.
Oh, yep. You know, I forgot about that card. Pretty strong card.
I see. So okay. So the value calculation was a little bit better there, considering the Valiant Dynamos. Oh, and we see the Fang player deciding to block 10 on the Bolton shot. That is currently.
I think he has a Sink Below in hand.
Yeah, with the Sink Below in hand. So waiting to see if there's anything happening. We now see the Sink Below covering 14 on 13, and I believe we saw Azalea had a Rain Razors there. I'm pretty sure I saw Rain Razors in the Azalea's hand. So deciding to arsenal Rain Razors instead of coming over the top by 1 to get that ponder on hit.
Yeah. I think Rain Razors is probably a better arsenal than just a random arsenal. It's something you can plan and play around, and you can play a much wider turn with it. So it is something you'd rather keep that than a random arsenal. And especially knowing he just full blocked with his entire hand, you know that there's not really a response coming from the Fang player. Yeah. So it's something where I like, okay, 1 damage and maybe a good arsenal, or I can like make sure I have something relevant here.
Yeah, that is true. The Rain Razors enable some very strong turns on the Azalea side. So giving up the 1 damage in favor of potentially gaining that extra damage, if not more, the following turn, does make some sense.
Yeah. And I mean, if he drew another Bolton shot, and it could be something that he's on like 6, I don't have the list, but like it could be something where he's on like 6 Bolton shot. It could be something that he's like super willing to risk because all he needs is 1 Bolton shot to be pumped by Rain Razors and maybe another buff to go even wider.
Yeah, and Azalea does still have Snapdragons at their disposal, so they can at the very least go too wide if they have the arrows. Actually, that's not necessarily true because they don't have their bullseye bracers, so they would have to reload another way with take aim or a Bolton shot on hit. So we'll see how they decide to navigate this turn. So they bottom with Skullbone Cross Wrap. They're playing out the Rain Razors. See what arrow they load here.
Yeah, I can see an endless arrow in hand. Oh, they do have the Bolton shot off the top or in hand.
So they activate Tunic for Death Dealer, load Bolton shot. They draw Lace with Blood Rot, and now they're firing Bolton shot. Looks like that one might actually be yellow.
Yeah.
So for 5, go again. Now this on hit is actually pretty relevant here.
Yeah, because it is on hit reload, and we do know that he has the endless arrow in hand. So I was surprised he didn't want to, because you also see the Lace with Blood Rot. I'm surprised he didn't want to pump this more to force like the full block from the Fang player to try his best to get the reload.
So no, I think that is a tell that there's probably a take aim or another way to reload in hand. I can't see the hand too well, but I can't imagine that the Azalea player would throw this Bolton shot for 5 and potentially have their turn just end
with an IP4.
Yeah, if the opponent just blocks this out. We see that there's a Fate Foreseen in the Fang player's hand here.
There is definitely ways to get around it.
Fang deciding how they want to block this. This is From the Fang side, this is extremely odd, right? Because the Azalea has, is it 3 cards in hand? 4. I think it's 4
I
cards
think
in
it's
hand.
4 cards in hand.
Yeah. So they have 4 cards in hand. You gotta imagine they have some way to reload. So do you block this out?
Right, or do they have another rain razors over the top that you don't know about?
You see a
Because like you
smoke
could
out as
just
well.
block. Ooh,
Interesting. So the Fang can mark the Azalea if there's a second attack coming that's red. I think if I'm the Fang
okay.
player here, I don't block this out. I might just say no blocks.
Yeah, I feel like it's so weird because you've got to be linking like there's some way to go over the top here. There's some way that this Azalea player is going to. Oh, I think you said no
Yep.
blocks.
Okay,
Oh, please move into reactions.
so says no blocks, but then plays the Fate Foreseen in the reaction step. Just preserving some life here. Oh, is that the new? Oh, Slap Happy. Plays
Oh, that's
Slap
a
Happy. I've never seen that in Fang. So this card, if I remember correctly, it prevents the next 2 damage you would take. I think it's from a single source though, so it's only going to prevent 1 damage here. And then he gets a Vigor token.
okay. I do like that play because it does cover up a little bit over, but you still get some value from blocking one. And now if they throw the red, you still get the mark from the other defense reaction smoke out.
So now we see the reason that the Azalea didn't play the Lace of Blood Rot. They had a Codex of Blood Rot, which will allow them to reload probably the Endless Arrow here, unless there's another arrow we're missing from their hand. Yeah, I think if oh um
Oh,
interesting.
makes that a little awkward.
Do we have another video? Well, I guess I should have checked to see that the game actually ended properly.
Yeah, I did not expect that to end there.
Well, that's that's a bit of an oopsie on our part. I guess on their part too. I didn't expect this to end. It's just to end there.
Right.
So we do have a bit of a spoiler, I guess we can share. We know that there were no Fangs reported as winning last week's national championships. So the Azalea took it down. But yeah.
A little awkward there.
Just a little bit. Well, I guess you guys got to get a taste of our commentary for the first quarter of a game. I guess I should have noticed once the life totals were fine and we had already been in for 10 minutes that something was afoot. I thought it was gonna be a quick game.
Right.
I thought it was just gonna be the Azalea just
Mhm.
goes dominate for 12 over and over again and ends the game there. But well, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, like we can infer what happens in that game, and I was gonna say like that
Yeah.
hand still had 3 cards in hand, which I think were like 2 buffs and the endless arrow, and so I think the Fang was going to take a lot of damage that turn, get the blood rot on them, that 2 blood rots on them. So it's like they wanted to play more defensive, but they were gonna take 6 and then 2 blood rots when ending their turn, take another 4. So there's like 10 guaranteed damage there. And it ended there with like 34 life, something like that.
Something like that.
33.
They're in the 30s, yeah. It is interesting though, yeah, because the Fang was going way too slowly to really get online there, right? We saw they had a smoke out in hand, so they would be able to mark their opponent. And they had the vigor to throw a dagger for 1, and they likely get their first fealty because I doubt that the Azalea opponent blocks a dagger for 1, but then the Fang player is going to be taking 4 damage from the blood rot plus whatever they weren't able to block with on the endless arrow because they had 2 cards left in hand, so they could at most
There was
block 6. Well, maybe 7 if there's
and there was a
react.
There was a Rain Razor as well. I forgot about that. So it's like you had the 2
12.
buffs.
Right? 2/3 buffs, Rain Razors, Endless Arrow that comes in for 12. They probably block 6. They take 6 plus Blood Rod is 4, so they take 10 damage effectively.
Okay.
So not a great start for the Fang player. They get 1 fealty, assuming that the Obsidian hits, and they still have. You said they had the 0 for 4 in their arsenal, right? The 0 for 4. That
Yes.
if they have a fealty, so they actually throw that instead. Right, so they throw
Oh
that
yeah,
for
great.
4, creates a fealty, on hit would give a second fealty. So I mean, they get to 2 fealty, but I don't know.
The
I
Azalea
don't. I think I
responds
see
with
why the I see why the Azalea might get there.
And I can definitely see the strategy. They had a lot more defense reactions and like ways to prevent damage than I really expected from Fang going into that matchup. But it is something where it's like kind of from like my Guardian roots going back there. But it's like you can sit back and like block out a lot of an Azalea and turn around and wait to respawn until you have something good. I think the problem though with Fang is like he doesn't have any disruption really to stop that. So it's like maybe you're waiting for like a 16, 20 damage turn. But with aggressive decks, the more defensive options you have, it's so much harder to reach that end goal of getting that aggressive hand. Where it's at least in Guardian, like I'm blocking out until I find Spinal Crush. I'm blocking out until I find CNC Pummel. Like it is like an interesting way to approach that matchup. And obviously they know it a lot better than us, and it's probably the best way to approach it. But I can't imagine that it's a good matchup for Fang.
I can't imagine either because like you said, the strategy for Fang is to block out and build up your 3 fealty and then just overvalue your opponent because your daggers are free, and now you're throwing almost every card in your deck is a 0 for 4 at that point. And you become even a better Aurora once you're online in that sense. But until that happens, you are in a pretty rough spot, and we can see that the Fang player had some was playing for it, right? They were paying into the grains of blood spill. They were making vigors here and there, trying to enable their following turns to be able to do something off of not being able to pay for their daggers regularly through blue pitches. But unfortunately, they was just going a little bit too slowly. They really needed to make the fealty as soon as possible to throw as much damage at the Azalea and try to dodge the Rain Razors, or not the Rain Razors, the Red Ledgers as soon as possible.
Another thing I want to mention is like with that more defensive game plan, I also think that like especially that turn 1 when we saw a little bit of pitch stacking where it's like, oh, I could have thrown a 0 for 4 or throw a 1 block 1. It makes a lot more sense now with like how many defensive tools he had to want to maybe go into second cycle, because Fang's still going to naturally go through his deck really fast. He's going to see a second cycle, and putting a 0 for 4 on the bottom after theoretically, and I think he's assuming that by that point he has the 3 fealty. So it's something where I think he's assuming he's going to have 3 fealty by that point. And if he gets to pitch stack, it's going to be a lethal game because he's going to just be able to present and rip the cards out of Azalea's hand permanently. But
I have to say, I think you're a little bit Guardian pilled there. I don't think that matchup's going to pitch stack.
I don't, but like
I do think, however, I do think that the saving you're basically healing 2 by swinging dagger, right? Because you're not taking a damage off Remorseless, and you are refreshing your Valiant Dynamos, and so you do get to throw 3 extra damage, but you would take effectively 2 damage in the process. And so I think that the Fang player had the right idea of, let's slow the game down. I need to get my fealties. Throwing 4 damage is not as important as keeping my health up for as long as possible to give myself the opportunity to get these fealties online and come back from there. So I think that made a lot more sense on the Fang side, pitching the 0 for 4 instead of swinging it because of the dynamics of that matchup.
That makes sense.
I don't think it goes to second cycle.
I really don't think so, but I'm like trying to fight like it or find a good way to like
right
figure that one out. But it's like it makes sense.
I think the super spicy line though was the turn 0 bullseye bracers break from the Azalea player. I think that was very smart, and it clearly set them up for a very strong start. They pushed 7 damage on turn 0. They lost their bullseye bracers, but getting 7 value out of your bullseye bracers is pretty good. I think it's a very useful, very happy use of your bullseye bracers as the Azalea player.
Being able to, yeah, it's like preventing like real filtering from the Fang, because you could definitely see his first hand was really awkward
Mhm.
because he had 2 0 for 4 attacks without go again, and I think a defense reaction, no, maybe it was a yellow and he drew the defense reaction.
Yeah, I can't remember what he blocked with, but it wasn't anything useful.
Yeah. No, it was Hunt's End,
That's right. It was
the
Hunt's
2
End.
0 for 4s, and
Yeah.
a yellow. So it was
Yeah.
like something really awkward. Like, I can't use the Hunt's End. It's actually unplayable. These 2 0 for 4s don't give me go again. And this yellow that I can pitch, it's like I can throw dagger for 1 with this, or I can throw 0 for 4 with this, and it's a 4-card hand. So it's like being able to prevent him from filtering his hand on top of giving 7 damage through in turn 0, which is really impressive. And then even getting an arsenal afterwards, like very smart play to like figure that out.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. That was very well played from the Azalea side. Very well sequenced, and from the Fang side too. I think finding the pitch for the dagger there was a big deal too in terms of executing an overall game plan into the Azalea. But I wish we had the rest of the game to commentate over there. It would have been really cool to see how the rest of it plays out. But we do know that the Azalea ends up getting there based on the national championships results.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this episode up?
Nope. I think I've said everything.
All right. Well, to remind you all of the question, you can comment in the YouTube comments below or on Spotify. Oh, also, if you don't mind liking this video if you liked it and subscribing to see our upcoming videos, we really appreciate it and it helps us out a lot. But to remind you of the questions, what are you excited to see in Singapore? And do you think there will be anything besides no changes on the ban list coming out on I think Monday is when it comes out. But with that, I am Cody.
And I'm Jacob.
And thank you for watching and listening.